prize for that?
There's no prize. I'm shy of prizes. I got nothing.
You stop
lied
this
to
recording.
me.
You stop this recording right now. You take off your headphones. You walk out that door. You get in your car. You go to the nearest store. I don't care what store it is.
It's a Dollar
General. Can be a dollar store. Can be an adult store. Can be
you wanted it to be
a witchcraft and wizardry store. Can be a police station. You go in there and you get me a prize. And then you take that prize and you ship it to Alaska. And then once it gets to Alaska, you tell me where in Alaska it is. Okay.
It's like Pawn Stars. Best I can do is arrested.
Yeah. Okay.
Seconded. Man, Thanksgiving. That one snuck up fast.
I know. Like, Thanksgiving's always one. Okay, we talked about this last year too.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize we're kind of keeping with the theme. We got another John Hughes film.
Yeah, I kind of debated when we were talking about it last year. I remember this one was kind of on my list of ones I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Planes, Trains won out because it's just, that screams.
Well, yeah, and I'll bring that up a little bit later just to see like why this particular one isn't as well known or well remembered.
I think that there's one particular very good reason, which I'll get into. But
okay, yes,
it's a technical reason. But it's not a lot of people have heard of the John Hughes movie Dutch. I think it is.
I didn't, or at least if I did, I had forgotten of it.
Yeah, I think it's one of like the top Thanksgiving movies, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And as with a lot of John Hughes movies, like any of his quote unquote Thanksgiving movies can like kind of be Christmas movies also, even though they like have that just general holiday atmosphere.
Well, sorry, I'm continuing. Speaking of themes, I'm snacking on popcorn and drinking a beer. Very professional.
Well, I'm currently eating a quesadilla, so there you go. And drinking a tea. So.
Oh my God. Most of the holiday movies, like be it Christmas or Thanksgiving, at least those two, they are sort of dealing with the same, morals or themes and stuff like that of what's going to happen, because they're both family oriented,
about bringing people together.
Yeah, exactly.
Overcoming
Being thankful end of the year. They're very close to each other in terms of the time of the year. I mean, Thanksgiving more
cat burglars as a 10-year-old child.
Yes.
Just the classic tropes of the holidays.
But yeah, you can easily flip-flop a Christmas movie and set it in Thanksgiving. I think just because Christmas is bigger than Thanksgiving and more internationally celebrated. But I do respect it when someone says if they're going to do a holiday movie, they're like, oh, let's set it around Thanksgiving. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I do think Thanksgiving is starting to make a comeback in slightly and like it's becoming its own holiday once again. I don't know. I could be wrong there. We'll see. But
yeah, I think this one, it sticks in my mind still. And I think like that just seems to happen with Ethan Embry movies. Like
which I did not realize he was in this until I started watching it. I was like, oh, hey.
Our second Ethan Embry movie this year. We did Can't Hardly Wait back in spring, and
yes,
he was also in Vegas Vacation, one of the best Russes of that franchise. He's got the it factor. I will say, Ethan Embry.
Yes, he does.
And in recent history, he pops up in a lot of little things. Like he had a really hilarious cameo in Walking Dead. And, a couple of movies here and there. He had like smaller parts. And but yeah, he's a gem. I do enjoy him, especially in this role. He's such kind of like a head, rich kid. Like you love to hate him.
A little. Yeah, you can say it.
Yeah, and this, for people who saw Holdovers last year, this is somewhat in that vein, though a little less heartwarming. This one's more on the comedy end of things. Yeah. No,
definitely one of those kids that, like, you sure want to punch in the face, but you're like, I can't afford to go to prison right now, so.
The most punchable face you ever did see, this kid. And the contrast between Dutch Dooley and this head kid who's just like it's almost like a bit of a Joker Batman effect where they're like this unstoppable force of this kid meets this immovable object of Dutch Dooley.
No,
it's just hilarious to watch.
I get a lot of when I've seen this movie. I get a lot of. It reminded me and made me want to watch other John Hughes movies. Like
it definitely brings up a lot of Home Alone and just
a lot of
the
Alone,
antics.
Lot of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
That when we get into why it's not as known, that I'll give you my reason, or at least why I think.
It's kind of like a nexus type thing of a lot of John Hughes tropes and elements like sitting in between a lot of these things.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of, what's the one with John Candy where he comes to watch the kids?
Oh, Uncle Buck, yeah.
Uncle Buck, thank you. I was about to say Uncle Ted or Uncle Ned. I'm like, no, that's not it.
That movie is an utter classic.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I can't ever forget it is because of the Dane Cook line and his bit. You know, you come into Blockbuster, you dust off the Uncle Bucks. Kills me.
That is true. You do definitely want to dust that off. But yeah, so I think you have definitely seen this more than I have.
I grew up. This was one of those ones that just around the holidays was always on.
Yeah, and this one I don't know. It doesn't. It was obviously there, but yeah, for me, I don't.
So I will get into the technical reason for why
it doesn't come up as much. So yeah, I'd like you to get into your past with this.
There's a really interesting reason for why not a lot of people have seen this, and it's because it was never remastered. And because it was never remastered, it didn't make it really onto any... It had a very short Blu-ray release where it was just upscaled from DVD. Mm-hmm. It's basically the same thing. But now, if you want to buy a Blu-ray copy of Dutch, it's like $140 used.
What? Why? Yeah. Just because
I actually looked it up today just in interest of this, and I was like, wow, the price of this is just skyrocketed.
Just because of its rarity?
They only had a limited run of the Blu-rays. You can still buy it on DVD, but it's never made it to... It's only on Prime, and I think you can only rent or buy it. It's not it's not available, but like that is the only digital platform it even exists.
I hate greed. Whoever invented it was a dude.
But yeah, so like if you can, I do recommend picking up a copy of this. I know in this day and age, that's like a death sentence for most people, but I will say this is one that's worth it.
No,
because the performances between these two alone, it's worth it. But it's it has that John Hughes charm. It's definitely got that holiday gem to it, and it did kind of start the ball rolling for where like a lot of movies and a lot of books and a lot of things have copied this over the years.
Oh, really? Okay.
I would say The Holdovers is kind of an adaptation almost of this in a lot of ways.
Think? I haven't seen The Holdover, so.
It's a grounded, like, it's like the opposite of this. It's like the kid stays in school and he's watched after by one of his teachers who he's treated very poorly, and vice versa. And it's like a heartwarming type thing. But it's like it's still a very like similar story in which it's like around the holidays, this older guy who has no other family is forced to take care of this kid who just treats him like garbage.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, like a lot of the parallels between the two. But like I said, this one is far more in the realm of a comedy, even though it has that John Hughes balance of being very sentimental at times and very heartwarming, but also like shooting fireworks off and looking at porno mags.
Can I like, this is off topic, but I'm looking at the cover of Dutch right now.
There was I did choose specifically to put that version of the poster in there because the tagline and everything, like it was. Well,
yeah, it's like Home Alone with Bart Simpson, Patrick Stoner,
and that's how it was like officially marketed.
YTV Philadelphia.
Yeah, that was like an officially marketed slug line.
Which I'm like, what? Recommended for mature audiences.
Yeah.
Which is
they're the best of friends, and they have the scars. I gotta say.
I like the cover. You know why I like the cover of this that you chose? Because I don't know what it is, but that looks like the kind of covers you would see in the 90s when you went to the video store to rent something. I'm not saying not necessarily Blockbuster. I'm talking like your grocery store video stores, like your Giant Eagles, your mom
Eagle
and pops.
Video.
Yes. And like this is something that it looked like. Like this is the cap. There was that. You know, this reminds me like Pretty Woman, I think, had this kind of like cover where it's just like the white background, and then you give it like a little bit of color in the title, and then you have the characters doing something. And
there's just like a couple of little hooks there, but it's like very basic.
Yeah, it's that I don't want to use the term formula thing, but yeah.
There's so many other great little moments. Like you have Shooter McGavin in this as well.
Yes, I was just gonna say, like, so before we started, you had I think you had the scene. Is one of the scenes in like the beginning?
Yeah, The Christmas party and towards the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was actually watching that scene when you jumped in.
Yeah, and it's his. I will say, Shooter McGavin. That's not his. What is the actor's name? Oh God,
Christopher McDonald.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I always forget his name.
he has such a distinctive voice as an actor.
Such a distinctive face too.
Yes, too.
Instantly recognizable, and he
Like
has
the
like
moment-
the most like punchable mustache face. Like he's just like a rich snobby dick. You just hate him.
Oh yeah, I had pieces of like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of for breakfast?
But no, I gotta say, I know he probably got typecast a lot in the 90s.
Oh, for sure. But I think he did enjoy it because he definitely played the hell out of each one of these roles.
Mm-hmm. Especially Standish. Oh, what's Mr. Standish? But what's his? Oh God. Well, anyway, Doyle's father.
Also, we have a Poltergeist tie-in. We have had many Poltergeist tie-ins this year, but Jo Beth Williams plays Natalie Standish, his mother.
Oh yeah, that's why. There you go. That's why Dutch didn't. It was cursed by Poltergeist.
Exactly. But yeah, this is one of those ones that I watched it so many times it's just seared into my brain. I've memorized it.
So just coming from someone who's, I want to say I've watched it for the first time.
Really?
I cannot,
that genuinely surprises me.
Well, no, I cannot. Like I see Ed O'Neill, and
yeah,
I remember him a lot from Little Giants.
Married with Children, Little Giants.
Married with Children. Yes, Married with Children was probably the bigger one, especially in the 90s.
Yeah.
I always got him confused with, you remember Guts, the show?
Oh, yeah.
You remember,
and that guy was also on a sitcom, too. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Mike O'Malley.
Mike O'Malley, that's, yeah.
Yes. I always got Ed O'Neill and Mike O'Malley
Take it away,
confused.
Mo. I hate that I remember that so vividly.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Guts. And he would always, I don't know what I'm doing an impression of him, but do you have it? Oh yeah, he's gotta go, he's going for it. And then he would do this thing.
They wouldn't take them off the mics. They would give him like the weirdest kind of so good.
I'm doing this out of like pure reverence. I loved Guts.
Oh,
I just remember they would have to climb the mountain up the top, and he'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, first it was the aggro crag. Then it was the mega crag. Then it was the super mega aggro crag. Now it is the ultimate super mega aggro crag. And each time they added to the wall climb, the name and title got more and more.
Everybody wanted a piece of that crag, man.
Absolutely.
You could not get
it. Crag off is what we used to say in the
I
90s.
wonder how much pieces of crag are going for on eBay these days.
If you had if you actually performed, if you were one of the contestants and you won, I bet you that. So if anyone is out there listening to this, look into that and like post it underneath here or like tag it and let us know what an actual legit piece of a Guts crag glowing rock is to this day. If you were to sell it.
For some reason, I pictured like somebody tries to shave off a piece of it to sell, and then it just like hits the ground and explodes because it's like radioactive.
It's radioactive.
Such a rare element.
But yes, I confused Ed O'Neill and Mike O'Malley a lot back in the day.
Yeah.
But especially, I would say Ed O'Neill and Little Giants as one of the coaches for the Cowboys.
I think, beyond Modern Family and the other things that O'Neill has done, I do genuinely remember him from Dutch because it was just the way he played that character was like the raw. He like, other than Wayne's World, I would say he generally plays roughly the same character, but he does it so well. And I think that this is the rawest form of that character that he repeatedly played so many times.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked more about, we just said it with Christopher McDonald's character. You can get typecast a lot in Hollywood. Now, if you're going to pay me enough, you typecast me all the time. I'll be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind. But I would imagine it has to take its toll, or it does take some professionalism to still give, a strong performance. And I do think Ed O'Neill does that in this.
I would say so. And it's like I said before, it's that duality of Ethan Embry, like as such a young kid, being able to like believably get under that character's skin so deeply and annoy the shit out of him so much.
Yeah.
Like that is a tall order for a young actor to be able to pull that off believably.
Well, he almost has that like Richie Rich gone bad thing to him, which Richie Rich came out after this.
Well, it's also like they do sell that in the realm of the story. It's like he's that's the side of his psyche that like favors his father, who is a piece of like. So it like the story direction and like the motives behind a lot of this fit and make a ton of sense.
Well, yeah, and just to give like a little bit of the setup to the movie, you have Dutch, played by Ed O'Neill, Dutch Dooley, as you said, blue collar guy in Chicago, and he is currently dating his girlfriend. Newly
dating, yeah.
She's not divorced yet, right? No,
they're like in the process. They've like fully separated. Like it's basically all but finalized.
It's all but final. It hasn't just been official on paper yet.
Yeah.
And I think
I believe that Chris McDonald's character is like just getting ready to move his things out, or he's at the end, like there's talk of him possibly moving back in, or but the Doyle is considering moving out from with his mother and moving in with his father, and there's like a lot of gray as to like what the future dynamic of the three of these people are.
No, yeah, and essentially it's I believe the mother, Dutch's girlfriend, says that, oh, you need to pick up my son to bring him to Thanksgiving, to trip back home, and it would be a good bonding experience for them. And obviously Doyle is a much more, stuck up piece of POS than Dutch is. So you have that.
Well, it's also too, it's because
that's kind of the setup. Or
the reason why it's like such a last minute decision was because Doyle's father was supposed to take him for the holidays, and then he last minute bails and has to go to London. Yeah. So it's like that's why this wasn't better prepared. It's like it was a snap last minute change in plans. Which,
if you are doing this from a writing standpoint, from a story standpoint, because that's what's interesting is like on paper, this looks good. Like I'm like, okay, this works. This is, it has the setups, all the elements are there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, characters speak more with their actions than necessarily their words. And if you look at, I'm just going to keep calling him Shooter McGavin.
Yeah, that's fair. It's so he just is that
just that little moment of him having to change the plan so late in this close to Thanksgiving.
Just like letting other things take precedence over his son. Like
choosing the work, choosing the career, choosing the job over family.
Well, I'm not going to lose out on the money.
Yeah. I mean, it's a classic thing you see like from what we talked about last year in Christmas Carol. Same idea. Like, are you taking the job, the career, the money, or the family, the emotion? What's that thinking and feeling type struggle? And usually just little acts like that is a way to inform the audience of, okay, this guy's
who is this person?
Yeah. So the actions of a character, the choices of a character can really help you out when you're trying to get either the audience on their side or against them.
And also it's a way like for a movie like this that isn't like a crazy huge blockbuster budget. It's like you can make a story out of things that aren't explosions and millions of dollars of CGI.
No, which is one thing I do like about John Hughes' movies.
They rely on character dynamics, and I think that that's why this one sticks out in my head, because it is purely about the dynamic of essentially these four characters. There's obviously more to it than that, but it's like they are the core driving force of everything that happens. You see it in every other John Hughes movie. It's like Ferris Bueller, Uncle Buck, like we said, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It's all the character dynamics, how they interact with each other, how they overcome their differences and conflicts.
Yeah.
And often it's like characters trapped with one another, which is what makes it interesting. Dutch, for example, Planes, Trains, like you put them in a bottle, force them to duke it out intellectually with their emotions. Like that's the John Hughes magic.
Yeah, it's when you strip the pretensions of society or the fabrications of society, and then you just get these two characters truly in there, and they have to face each other. What comes out? And this is big too, like theme wise, it keeps on with the class differences, which definitely Planes, Trains, and Automobiles talked about a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it come out of the eyes of a child in this one, who is like so embrazened in not being a child. Like he just wants to be an adult and like spread out his portfolio and see how much money he's making. Like he is in every sense like the anti-child child. He meets this adult who is essentially a big kid. Like
he just wants to be an adult and spread out his portfolio. And I'm like, yep, that's pretty much what being an adult is.
Yes, I think that's where Dutch kind of stands apart from a lot of other John Hughes other movies. Like, obviously, Planes, Trains has an element of this, but it's like it is so at the forefront of this movie. It just drives a lot of what's happening. It's the obvious differences of class structures between Dutch Dooley and the father, obviously, and our main character. So and there's so much humor from that because like they just assume he's incapable, but he's so much more street smart than the two of them.
Yeah,
it's like hilarious because often Ethan Embry's character will try and buy his way out of a scenario, and like when he runs out of money and then he realizes that Dutch actually like isn't that bad off, like he's worked quite a bit in his life and he has resources, he knows how to get out of a situation without using money. But then I love the scene in the diner where he's like, I can do something you can't do. Oh yeah, what's that? I can pay for my breakfast. And then the rest of the scene, he's just watching him like hold his stomach and like go hungry. Like the fact that he would do that to a kid just because some offhanded remarks about his income and his status, like, and it's like the fact that he would do that to his girlfriend's son just because he was being a there's just something so great about it.
Well, yeah, I think it's that again, it's the characters making the choices, and obviously we kind of enjoy as an audience. I think it's that he has that self-respect. He does, Dutch. Yes, he's dating Doyle's mother, and so he could certainly kowtow down to Doyle so that it gives him bonus points, brownie points with the mother, with his girlfriend. But he chooses not to do that. He's like, no.
Because that's not who he is. That's not who he is as a character at all. He would never do that.
He would never do that. Yeah. And that is one of the reasons I think you can get behind that is obviously you don't want people like, causing tragedy on children, but he's not someone that would ever cross that line into criminal territory. He's just more like hard-edged.
He's literally trying to teach this kid a lesson. Like he's trying to teach him that the things that he thinks about Dutch are just not correct. He's like trying to show him things in a different light, and he's doing it through like tough love and be like, because like this is a kid who like doesn't ever get handed tough love. He just gets the softest possible hands or no attention at all, and he's left to completely fend for himself. And he's gotten a lot of strengths out of that, but also a lot of neglect, and he doesn't really know how to deal with a lot of real world situations. So Dutch is just going to give him this hilarious tough love at times and just kind of give him a different perspective. And like along the way, it takes a good few bumps in the road to get there, but they do genuinely find a common ground.
No, agreed. Yeah. And one of the things I was just looking at your notes here, I didn't realize that this was one of the first films that, not the first, but like coming off of the other ones, this is Hughes stepped back from the director's chair.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting too, given like this point in his career, he absolutely could have.
Yeah. Which I am curious to know, like, what was the...
Yeah, I don't really know the particulars because obviously this one isn't as researchable because it hasn't been so prominent in the public eye. So it was a little bit more of a tricky one to get some facts on.
Until we make it.
Dig up the dirt.
If Dutch becomes... I'm saying this now. If Dutch becomes big within the next 6 months...
We're taking credit.
We're taking credit for it. Yes, absolutely. Or you can take credit for it because
I don't care if anybody ever gives a shit about this movie because it's one of my genuine favorites. It's just there's something so magical about a movie that would treat a kid so much like like you can't do that. Like you can't make a movie like this today. Like nobody would accept this today.
No, I'm thinking of something a little bit more modern. Like I can remember when Iron Man 3 came out.
Oh yeah, the Ty Simpkins.
A lot of people liked
movie.
Yeah, a lot of people liked how Tony Stark treated the kid. How he didn't. He was like, yeah, whatever. He says like the line, which is whatever. Dads leave. That happens. No need to be a pussy about it or whatever he says. So yeah, this was doing it long before that.
Yeah, and it kind of had like some of those like classic comedy type. Like there's a bit of Wayne's World energy in this. There's a little bit of Happy Gilmore energy of this through Shooter McGavin.
Yeah, there's definitely that early '90s vibe.
Yeah, but it does so like in that wholesomeness of like the more somber moments of like Home Alone, where like you get like the fractured elements of the family like are actually real. It's not all for comedy. And, you know, a lot of people say comedy comes out of genuine pain in someone's soul. It's like, I think that John Hughes movies really tap into that.
Oh no, absolutely. Like I've always said, but I am a believer in one of the rules of storytelling, in that the best drama has comedy and the best comedy has drama. You know, they go. And and two, the original terms of comedy and drama usually, or comedy and tragedy, usually just came down to a comedy meant the hero would achieve their goal. A tragedy would mean the hero wouldn't, to put it very simply.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you always want to have those elements of drama, even if they are very well hidden. I'm trying to think of something that's like a Mel Brooks film, like Young Frankenstein, all sorts of just slapstick and comedy going on there, a much higher level of comedy, but there is still the drama in the conflict, and out of that creates more comedy. You know, you have like just the simple scenes of them putting an abnormal brain in Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Abby somewhat, it's funny because of how it happened and how the characters, play it. But that is the drama now, that, and that's the natural arc of the story. So same thing with Dutch and other John Hughes films. You've that emotional core that you talked about earlier is not forgotten when they do it. A lot of people, I think, someone who's still learning their craft of storytelling when it comes to comedy always has to remember there is that like you just put it, there is that pain in it. But unlike a drama, it has to work like a drama, but it also has to make you laugh.
Yeah,
which
if
is one of the
it
reasons
leans too hard into that drama and doesn't have a comedic payoff, you're also not going to care about it.
Which is why I've always thought that comedy is much harder to write than drama is. Not to say that drama isn't hard to write and work with, but I just think comedy is, because it's got to have all the foundations of drama and work like a drama, but then it's got to make you laugh too.
Which is
and
a
that
tall order.
is very subjective to how, especially today.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of great comedic moments in this movie, and obviously I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but there's some great plant and payoff elements, like the BB gun, for example, like
absolutely
shooting each other in the ass and stuff with the BB gun. And then like the last real moment of the movie is a callback to the BB gun, and he from halfway across the room pops Doyle in the ass with the BB gun.
Yeah.
Just a perfect ending to like the tone of the movie.
Yeah, literally with plan and payoff, going back to our very first episode, Chekhov's gun. Literally, there it is.
Literal Chekhov's gun.
Yeah,
Chekhov's
it was planted and paid off. It came back.
And the payoff, too, with Doyle's father, you kind of want to see Dutch actually stand up to him, but he's been trying to be respectful and like not acknowledge how much he's been treated poorly by this other figure, because he's also trying to keep things on an even keel and respectful for his girlfriend's situation and how it will affect Doyle. But it ultimately reaches a head where he's just said enough is enough, and at the end of the movie, when he screws with Doyle. And I believe it's that he tells him to shut up, but he essentially takes a stance and says no more, and he just lays his father out. And it's like one of the most satisfying things ever, because he's just been a for 2 hours. You want to see him go down, and Dutch Dooley is the one to do it.
No, yeah, I was looking through the scenes that you have here. Yeah,
I probably could have put more in there, but I just wanted to get like a seasoning.
Getting a little bit of a seasoning here.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like holy moments. Like they went that far with it. Like a ride home shouldn't involve like a massive car wreck and like potentially ruining Dutch's life in the process, or the relationship he has with Doyle's mother. It's like there's a lot of like very like hard edge threats that like borderline formulate into reality.
Yeah. Well, this is another one it's another road film. I mean, I think the majority of the movie is taking place on the road. So there is that externalization of what's happening internally. So not only are we taking an external journey, we're literally journeying on the road, but you're having that journey into self. We're trying to discover who these characters are. More importantly, what kind of person does Doyle want to be? And we kind of go back to, this is kind of that role as that mentor antagonist. type, that buddy cop movies that you'll see. You know, if you Dutch, of course, given the nature of Ed O'Neill at the time, I can totally see him being the top billing. But I would argue, or at least in terms of who goes through the biggest change, I would say Doyle does.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I would say he is the more dynamic character. So for me, I put him as the protagonist. Now, obviously,
I've kind of always considered Doyle as the protagonist, but you can look at it both ways, because it's like Dutch does receive some transformation in that, you know, he's more willing to let his own personality rise to the surface and not be so much acquiescing to what people need.
Yeah,
because like he does kind of like walk around with soft gloves with his girlfriend, and, you know, and with Joe Beth Williams' character, and like keeping things on an even keel. But he's like, yeah, at the end, he's like, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just going to tell you how it is and lay this out.
No, and that's tough to pull off, especially because I think the mentor antagonist role, you know, they're the ones that largely stay the same. It's not that every character can't grow or have an arc. They can. It's just the protagonist is usually your most dynamic character. Certainly in this, Doyle is definitely dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, another Iron Man, since I brought that up before, another Iron Man reference. It's essentially the same, similar to the Tony Stark arc in the first Iron Man, just no Iron Man suit or anything like that. To take out the superhero element.
Ty Simpkins was also in that one.
What's that? What did you say?
I said Ty Simpkins was also in that one as the same age.
One day we'll have to do that. It's
so good. It makes me laugh every time I even think of that kid. It's it's incredible.
Dear God. But so given that this is, what are your thoughts on the shooting, the actual shooting of this, the cinematography of it? Obviously it's a John Hughes film, and we're going more on the comedy route. Which
it is very reminiscent of Home Alone. It's like you could tell that was like, obviously this was just a year after Home Alone was a huge success. Mm-hmm. That was in the forefront of everybody's mind. So obviously there was like some emulation going on, but like it really does like remind me of, and it's the locations John Hughes uses. Like obviously like a lot of that stuff just carries over in a John Hughes production, but it really does have that kind of feel to it. It's like that there's a level of drama styling to all of that, and that warm around the holidays feel. It's like the way everything's lit really captures that. They do a great job of moving through simply, and you know, but at this point John Hughes crews had been around. People who were loyal to those types of productions kept coming back and just knew what they were doing. So it's you know, definitely, you know, you're gonna get something solid out of teams like that.
So if you were shooting a movie like this, how would you approach?
Well, first thing, I would die happy, but
okay. But let's just say let's say Dutch never happened, and you are now the director, the DP, director of photography on this new movie called Dutch.
Okay.
And it's a comedy. Everything's the same. Let's just say, how would you approach? Like, because I've always been curious about lighting and shooting a comedy film. Again, for me, I always feel like comedies are trickier or a little bit tougher to get right because of that added layer. Obviously, we don't want to go too dark or contrast with the lighting, I'm assuming, because it's a comedy, but also
there's that drama element to it, which is what makes John Hughes a tricky nut to crack. It's like you want to show there is darkness in some elements of this story, and you want to accentuate that, but you don't want to do it in a way that detracts from a humorous moment. And it's like there were like a lot of logistical challenges on this movie. If you look at it from a shooting standpoint, it's like there were a lot of night exteriors on the road in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a to shoot, especially around this time, because like really what your options are throw an HMI up and mimic the moon. Like that's basically like your method. In a lot of those situations.
And an HMI is, for those who
a very big ass light, often used to simulate the sun, the moon.
Yes. Why? I am being serious here. Why is it called HMI? What is it? What does that stand for?
Don't put me on the spot like this. You've been doing this lately.
Okay. I actually have never. I don't remember. Oh, you're looking up HDMI.
No. Hydrarginum medium arc iodide.
Whew.
That's what it technically stands for.
All right. Yeah. So HMI.
Hydrarginum
No.
Yeah, go ahead and look that word up because that's exactly how
I
it's
believe
spelled.
you, but the moment has passed. We're calling it HMI.
Yeah.
Okay.
COB lights are where it's at these days, but HMI is still very much our like industry centric. A lot.
So would you find? Do you find like shooting a comedy more difficult to work with in terms of like the lighting and shooting as opposed to like a drama?
Every movie is different, but like a lot of comedies today want things to be as improv capable as possible. So like those like more long term, like light from one angle, then move on to the other. That's not really what's done in comedies. You want to try and light the entire scene as much as you can, to allow for as much improv to like float around, like keep it a flux and floating environment is kind of the key with comedy, because you want to allow for like as much freedom for the talent to have, you know, their moments of trying to bring in new ideas, because a lot like in comedy a lot of things are on the fly, you know, try and keep it as in motion as possible, maybe flip around and get something from another angle because something happened that was funnier, so you want to try and recover stuff you've already done. There's a lot of that type of thing, so it's tricky.
I only ask that because when I think of comedic movies, the lighting scheme at least, and the lens and how the shots are set up tend to be very similar or fall within a same.
Comedies also tend to be very multicam, whereas like, you know, a lot of, you know, on the biggest budget productions, you know, it tends to be the case. Things are multicam just for the sake of time. But, you know, comedies, you know, they really lend themselves to multicam because, you know, I remember I listened to It's Always Sunny podcast quite a bit, and they talk about all the time how like they almost, even from like the beginning of the show, they were running 3 cameras because if they didn't get something from at least a master and 2 pieces of coverage, like they didn't have it because there's so much of it was on the fly and off the cuff.
Yeah.
You know, they were never going to be able to recreate that moment. So it just like, it was that or die was their method. So,
and essentially when we say like a master to get the coverage, a master shot is usually your wide shot.
Yeah. It can vary depending, but like typically it's like just having some form of wider angle to cover all of what's going on in a scene roughly. It doesn't have to necessarily be a wide, but like you're right. Usually there's more than one actor in the frame when you do a master shot usually. Yeah. It's generally covering all, if not most, of the action in a given scene. Not to get too technical on
No. This is good stuff because hey, you never know what's going on. But anyway, yes, back to Dutch. So why? Well, one thing I did want to talk about that you brought up here in the notes, which I think is really good. A key theme in Dutch is parenting, but particularly masculinity and like fatherhood.
Yeah, big time. It's because like Doyle doesn't really have like a dependable father figure, and like also like it's more than that. It's like he's been in this kind of like sheltered motherly environment. He now has Dutch, who's this like crazy masculine figure in his life, and he is not going to sugarcoat things to Doyle. He's going to tell him actually like the brass version of how the world works. And there's, you know, elements like they come across porno mags and things, and you know, like cigars and alcohol and all that kind of ends up in the mix of all this chaos that ensues with them trying to get him home. And like the fact that when Dutch initially goes to pick Doyle up, he's like, no, I'll just stay here since my father's not coming to get me. He's like, I'm not coming home to my mother, and Dutch just takes him basically against his will. So it's like that's what like the tone we get from the word go between the two of them. It's like it's an already contentious and hostile environment between them.
Well, I like too how you've put it here that Dutch is a kind of anti-establishment take on masculinity, emphasizing that, you know, strength is not necessarily physical or financial, but emotional. That sense of honor. You know, going back to last week, that strength and honor. I don't think we said that once in the Gladiator.
We definitely missed a lot in that episode. That's okay, but
yeah, it's that complexity, you know, that I think is brought on to it, rather than, while Dutch certainly has some machismo elements going on, it's not just that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, where I'm going with this.
It's more about like giving Doyle an aspect of life that he has not otherwise had access to, which is going to give him a different outlook. And that's really the point.
Yeah.
Because he has been just in this boarding school environment, very much in his own head, doesn't really listen to anybody else, doesn't even really listen to his mother, barely listens to his father, but will accept input from him because he knows through his father he can find financial success.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's become very closed off to so many people, and Dutch just isn't going to put up with that. So
No, agree.
and I think there's a lot of gold in terms of life to be taken from that.
Yeah. So yeah, so you're saying one of the things this hasn't caught on was the
home video
remaster.
release. Yeah, and it was the fact that it was never remastered. It wasn't even remastered for Blu-ray, even though it had a very limited release in which it was put out on Blu-ray, but really all the Blu-ray was an upscaled version of the DVD.
So do you think, my idea was thinking that, is it because, like I said, I could see a lot of the earlier John Hughes movies in this, like Home Alone, Uncle Buck, Planes, Trains, Breakfast Club, Ferris. Like I could see a lot of that in it. Is that why maybe Dutch kind of got lost in the shuffle?
Yeah, like
because
it's kind
it
of
had
kind
a
of
lot
like
of things that you had already maybe seen or reminded you of the other ones.
It's like a nexus of so many other things, and it was like not really politically correct in a lot of ways. So it kind of was one of those ones that kind of got swept under the rug a little bit. But I do think like its brash and brazen nature. This also this kind of falls into a category. Have you ever heard of the movie PCU?
Yes, I think you've mentioned that one to me before.
So PCU is a movie that has been very much swept under the rug because it stands for Politically Correct University.
Oh,
it's kind
yes.
of like
yes, you have. Yes, go
It's
on.
kind of like an Animal House, but like just making fun of like activists going out. And like you can't find a copy. I have a DVD copy of that movie. You can't find that movie anymore because it has been hardcore.
How much
swept
is
under the
that
rug.
DVD worth?
I have watched that DVD so many times. It's probably worth a ton. I haven't looked it up, but I don't even think you can find it. It's been like scrubbed off of all streaming platforms. Like you can't find it. It's a good one. Jeremy Piven is the lead in that one. It's a good one. Yeah. In terms of holiday movies, I this one is one that just sticks out for me. I like those movies that are just kind of like you're never gonna lose favor with. It's just like you've seen it so many times. It's just like practically part of your soul and your personality. This is one of those for me. Like it screams the holidays for me. And like also in terms of like we've said before, Thanksgiving doesn't really have a lot of Thanksgiving movies.
Yeah.
This is a rare gem in really capturing the energy of Thanksgiving for me. It gives the introspective look into being thankful. It's like Doyle isn't very thankful for anything. He's just kind of and
yeah.
Dutch kind of forces him to look inward and be like, you do have a lot to be thankful for. You have a mother who like really cares about you, and you're giving all of your energy to your father who does nothing but treat everybody like garbage. So like Doyle is given a lot to be thankful for, and I think that's like it really at its core is a Thanksgiving movie.
Well, yeah, and you said it right that there aren't many of those Thanksgiving movies out there that I can think of, but this certainly captures the essence of the holiday. See, and of course, had Doyle listened to Dutch earlier, I almost like want to picture Ethan Embry's character Preston, right? I think it's Preston.
Yeah.
In Can't Hardly Wait as the adult
Such
version
different
of
characters.
Doyle or something like, and that's why he's the kinder kid who's trying to date Jennifer Love Hewitt in that movie.
I see it more as like in Can't Hardly Wait, he's an adult version of Rust from Vegas Vacation.
That's fair. That is fair.
Like they're a little bit more fitting. But yeah, like Ethan Embry definitely showed that he's got some range.
Yes.
For sure.
But yeah, I guess if you said this was only on Prime and only...
I think you can only buy or rent it on Prime too. It's like not available
so this is
to stream.
This is a curiosity to be sure.
Yeah, there's a couple of movies out there like that, like this, like PCU, that are just very tricky to get your hands on. And I think it's a testament to physical media collection. I think me, I'm a hardcore physical media collector. I think like not being dependent on streaming all the time, you will find things that exist outside of the hive mind of what everybody loves to enjoy. You'll find something different, maybe possibly really tailored to something you will like.
Well, there's the closing. That's a perfect one because much like how Dutch, shows Doyle like the other side, another part of the world or things in life that he has just been completely missing. So too, you can do that by stretching the
looking
legs.
outside the box of streaming.
Yes, and looking outside the box that is streaming. Because of course, with streaming, it's curated. You can only watch what they want you to watch or what they put on there.
Also, like you look at things like Wayne's World that has been changed since it was originally shown because of legal reasons. Like the original version of Wayne's World, they put the actual riff of Stairway to Heaven in there.
Yeah.
And now it's been changed because of legal reasons. So you're now seeing you're seeing it differently than it was originally cut together.
Intended. Yeah.
So if you have the original DVD of Wayne's World, have a bit of a time capsule where you can't look at it that way on any streaming platform or even the newest versions of the DVD.
Huh, interesting.
So there's a lot to be said for physical media collection.
Yes, a lot to be thankful for.
A lot to be thankful. We need a bit. I need a good bit. I don't got a bit. Just put a clip from the movie in there.
Just put a final thing. Hey, remember when you go to have Thanksgiving, nobody drink the beer. The beer has
gone bad. That's so good. little bit of William Lichter coming at you.